Yes, I
All
can
right,
hear.
perfect. Okay, we will open our Monday, September 8th, 2025 school board meeting. Public access to meetings here in person as well as online. We will have the meeting opening and roll call.
Ms. Bushman,
Here.
Ms. Mercer. Here. Mr. Kowalski.
Here.
Mr. Pope.
Here.
Mr. Liebrick.
Here.
Ms. Erler.
Here.
Mr. Summers.
Here.
Mr. Lepak.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Excellent, thank you. Could we stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, our first item on the agenda is our Mandana Bliss Award, and I'm gonna turn it over to Corey.
Thank you. So congratulations to Amber Hofferman, who has been chosen as our Mandana Bliss Award winner for this month. Amber is the assistant to Chris Nyman, our Assistant Superintendent and Director of Elementary Education. And we are gonna ask both Chris and Sherry Stanchek, who nominated Amber, to come forward and present Amber with her award.
So I'll just read the nomination form for Amber. Thank you all for being here. It's really hard to come up with one person at Bliss, but I work closely with Amber, so I thought it was very fitting. I'm honored to nominate Amber for Mandana Bliss in recognition of her exceptional dedication and invaluable contributions as a support staff member in our district. One of the qualities I most appreciate about Amber is her consistently welcoming and patient attitude. No matter how simple or complex the questions, I never feel hesitant or silly asking for help. She approaches every inquiry with a genuine can-do spirit. Amber's positive demeanor extends beyond just her work with families and students. She treats all staff members with equal respect and kindness, regardless of title or position. Colleagues frequently rely on her because she also responds in a positive manner, making them feel they are the priority despite how busy she may be. I often leave our interactions reflecting on the model she has become for me in many of these areas. In addition to her interpersonal skills, Amber's work is marked by accuracy and professionalism. She consistently delivers positive results and shows eagerness to expand her knowledge by learning new skills and taking on new challenges. Amber's commitment not only benefits those she directly supports, but also strengthens the overall culture of collaboration and excellence in our district. Her respectful and kind approach creates a welcoming environment for families and students, fosters trust and positive relationships. Staff members feel supported and valued by her willingness to help and her dependable presence. Amber has become a go-to resource for many, contributing significantly to the smooth operation and success of our school community. Amber truly embodies the spirit of Mandana Bliss through her unwavering commitment, kindness, and professionalism. It is with great enthusiasm that I recommend her for this well-deserved award.
I'm going to just add a couple words about Amber. It's my honor to recognize her tonight, though I know she's waiting for this moment of recognition to pass quickly. And some of what Sherry shared is certainly going to be heard a second time, but that's okay, because it deserves to be said a second time, probably a third time, and even a fourth time. But Amber truly demonstrates the highest level of professionalism in everything that she does, whether it's organizing calendars, juggling schedules, guiding families through the enrollment process, managing countless purchase orders, budgets, and inventories. She does all of this with an energy and positivity that not only makes her exceptionally talented and effective, but also makes her an incredible colleague to work alongside. In my office, for those of you that have visited, you'll know that I have a sign on a bookshelf behind my desk that says, "Be the person that you want to work with." Amber truly embodies this every day and everything that she does. No matter the challenge or last-minute hurdle, she brings a can-do spirit that really lifts those around her. For me, this award isn't just about recognizing someone who excels at her job. It's about honoring a genuinely good person who makes our district better in ways that unfortunately often go unnoticed. Amber, thank you for all you do. Congratulations. You are exactly the kind of person that we're all grateful to work with.
Before I turn this over to Amber, I had the privilege to work with Amber for 5 years in the Ed Services Department. And Amber is really, she's a quiet leader. She does whatever needs to be done, when it needs to be done, and she never, ever, ever complains. Even when I know it's hard, and she's holding things in, she just does what needs to be done for families, for kids, and for the district. So congratulations, Amber.
Thank you.
Very deserving. And then you get to go around and shake everybody's hand. All right.
Morning, Chris.
All kinds of things that you have.
We're always matching.
If you took out
I
his
can't
blue
stand
blazer.
Yeah, yeah.
I will get that invite. Thank you very much.
Is this a good arrangement?
Yeah, it's the background.
Oh, do you want me to?
Or for a different background.
Yeah, change it.
I can change it. Okay.
Good connotations.
I'm changing it back.
Well, it's a good thing that my camera wasn't on.
It's not you, Jen, at
Yeah,
all.
it's not you. It's
Is that better?
It's me.
All right, let's do that one.
I can't stand my Corey because I look too short.
As his mom said.
Don't ever stand
And
by
we might be
her.
dressed alike.
Not as bad as some days.
Thank you.
Just take off the blazer.
Thanks.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Amber. Congrats.
Thank you.
She's out.
Well, she didn't cry, that's good.
That is good.
She's gonna do that now though.
Yeah, she will.
All right, we'll move into public comments. Either email,
Back on?
She is.
Yep.
She's on.
Oh, okay.
either
So-
email or in person?
We had no comments.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay. And no one has signed up to speak tonight. Is there anyone here who would like to speak to the board? All right, we will move into presentations. First is communication report with Sarah O'Donnell.
Hello. All right. I'm wondering if you have to click back on the presentation.
Oh, is it not going?
No.
Try now.
Hey, thank you. All right, our communication report will begin this evening with our back to school coverage, which we think went quite well. We did transition into our new theme for the year, that Believe, Belong, Become. So you'll see that theme is recurring throughout the year, really centering our communications around those three ideas and storytelling where that is happening in the district. You can see just some events that we covered throughout the month of August, either with photos or video, in addition to some of the media coverage we'll talk about later. As you know, back to school is probably one of the busiest times for us for communication. We have people paying attention to school and we take advantage of that as much as we can. We did our own video as well, our From Oh No to Let's Go. Thank you to my colleagues for being willing to play along with that idea. Went really well. We've had the highest engagement on a back to school video that we've had in a long time. So we'll start brainstorming for next year. So that was just, it was really a lot of fun to do and trying to pull some humor into a topic we haven't in the past. So, and then again, that Believe, Belong, Become theme. As we look at website and digital engagement, this was actually a surprise to me this month. You can see we actually saw our total views drop quite a bit. However, we saw engagement time per user go up substantially, over 700%, and then also saw our key event count. So that would be like downloading a PDF or clicking through to
A place that I have tagged as a key event, like calendar, menu, something that I think is important and want folks to be at, is up by 88%. So my interpretation of that is that we had fewer views because as they were viewing, they were able to get what they needed faster. Because we're not tracking unique views there, we're tracking all views there, so it's not like tracked by user. So I think it's a positive, although it did surprise me a little bit. I don't love being surprised when we look at data. Our 3 most visited pages were the back to school page, the staff portal login, transportation, and then I did just add calendar and about us were right up there too this month. So places that we wanted people to be, which is always a good thing. Our key focus was that back to school hub, absolutely ensuring that those seeking that information, we want people to be able to come in, get what they need quickly, and be able to move on with what they need to do to plan for back to school. We shifted all 18 websites to that Believe, Belong, Become theme. And then we've started our website audits. We're starting with Spash, looking really at template control, starting to implement some of those digital access components that we'll need to have ready to go by the end of this April. So we started with Spash and just met today with those who are in charge of that website up there just to say, like, was this audit helpful? What did we miss? What do we need to do better? And then how can we help you implement the changes that need to be there? So once we get that tweaked, we'll continue on through the remaining websites in the district. Looking at media coverage and public relations for the month, you can see we only released 1 press release throughout the month, but had really great coverage. Again, August is just a time when folks are really thinking about schools and back to school. So we had just some really nice coverage on, is your child prepared for kindergarten? Dr. Bollendorf's daughter, Peyton, did a mural up at Spash. We revealed that. And we just have had really great relationships with both 9, 7, and the Journal. Looking at social media engagement, we saw a significant jump, which is not surprising, right? It's August. However, those numbers, the impression engagement numbers, are up from what we did in the previous year. So not just month over month, that's actually year over year numbers. We're up about 63% in impressions. I forgot in my note. 39% up in engagement. So a good jump there year over year for a month that's usually pretty heavy. Our highest engaged and impressions and engagements for the month was our, Taylor Swift got engaged and people seemed really excited about it, and she referenced teachers. So we thought, yeah, we're going to reference teachers too. So we just made a request to staff that if they were a married couple, both employed at the district, that they send us their picture. I think we had 14 or 15 folks get it to us by the deadline. That was a pretty quick turnaround. And share that with our community, and just got a lot of reactions and engagement. So I'm really excited to be able just to celebrate our people in that way, in a way we typically wouldn't. Looking ahead over the semester, we'll really be focused on that strategic planning and alignment. We are planning again for a mid-year update that will go out to all of our community. It's great that we're able to communicate with folks that are already connected to the district, but we want to make sure that folks that aren't connected to us on a daily or monthly basis are able to get that same information. We'll continue to wrap in those referendum and budget updates. Engagement and recognition is something we're really focused on this semester. Building internal capacity and support. So we have started to work on that digital accessibility plan. We'll roll out training the end of this month, starting to our webmasters. Again, really making sure we're ready to go for that compliance by April, I guess next year, this school year, next year, 26. And then our major campaigns, we'll be looking at enrollment push for point of discovery, 4K, and I believe open enrollment as well. And that is it for me.
So I have a question about the major campaigns.
Mhm.
We have talked about reaching out to those people who are open enrolling, and you had mentioned that. Have we done anything with reaching out to them?
We have our first meeting this week to talk about what our game plan is gonna be for the year. We're
And
gonna
do we
put,
have any ideas for how many are open enrolling out yet? I know it's not third Friday yet,
We
but
won't until third Friday. Yeah, I mean, I shared with the board what last year's numbers were. Once that third Friday hits and we get that information back, we'll have more detailed information, but we are gonna start planning already this week.
So, Sarah, in terms of like engagement, the numbers you're tracking, you know, so I as a board member, every once in a while, well, especially the video starting the year, repost it.
Yeah.
Do your stats catch
Yep,
that?
absolutely. Every post, share.
Okay, so anything that we're doing as board members to forward on anything you're providing to us.
If you think of it as like most helpful to the algorithm, it would be that sharing is the most helpful, commenting is the next helpful, and then liking, hearting, right, however you choose to engage, hopefully not an angry face.
And that might be helpful to reach out to members of the community that aren't part of this school community, don't have kids in school right now.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the further we can help share that information, we're certainly hoping that people are seeing it. consuming it.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you,
I just have to say, I thought the video was wonderful.
thank you.
It really was. Well
I
done.
had really good actors, so that helped, and a really good videographer.
I really like Sam's telling everyone that you belong here. And it was a small comment, but it was powerful. Well done.
I kind of like Jeff with the locker.
And Chris with the report card.
Yeah.
And my heart is still racing.
Gave Chris a lot of anxiety.
Yes, it did give me a lot of anxiety. Never had enough in my life.
I will say Mr. DeMarco at PJ's too with the locker. I didn't even have like I had all of my shot lists set up and had sent them out to everyone that was gonna be in the video, and I didn't even have a chance to connect with him, and he called me and he's like, I have the locker ready to go. It's this locker, I'll meet you at this time. And so we're so lucky to have people that are willing to help and be part of that kind of fun.
Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah.
All right, superintendent's report.
Okay, it's been a great start to the new school year. I just want to thank all the staff who helped to prepare our buildings and our facilities for students to report in September. I want to thank families for sharing their children with us. I mean, they're really the individuals that bring life to our building. So thank you to staff, thank you to families, thank you for students for being here. It's just not the same during the summer months. So it's exciting to have everybody back in session and in our buildings. Want to thank Sarah for the back to school video. It was a different twist. I know it was a risk on her part. It wasn't as serious, but we continue to get really positive feedback from staff, from students, and from families. So thank you to Sarah for that. We just recently learned that our boys and girls SPASH soccer programs received the high school team academic award from the United Soccer Coaches. We are 1 in 35 school districts in the nation to have received both the boys and girls receiving this award. So congratulations to our soccer program. That's awesome. We're still recruiting for some staff. Currently, we have 1 temporary reading teacher position open. We have 15 special ed EA positions open, 5 regular ed EA positions open, an office EA, an interpreter, a bilingual translator, a naturalist, a server, a cook, custodian, and a maintenance mechanic. So if anyone is out there and looking for jobs, we still have some positions available in all aspects of everything we do in the school district. So consider applying. It's a great place to work. WASB Fall Regional Meeting is November 4th in Rothschild at 6 o'clock. So board members, just a reminder that that's coming up in November. WASB board member recognition. Congratulations to Ted. Ted has received his level 2 recognition through WASB for his efforts in board development and attending many WASB activities and events. So congratulations to Ted, very deserving. We have the SPASH tennis courts ribbon cutting ceremony that's going to take place this Wednesday at 4:30 at SPASH. They are beautiful. If you are interested in attending, please consider attending that event. Homecoming week is September 29th through October 3rd. So if interested, please partake in all of the activities happening during homecoming week. The SPASH Athletic Hall of Fame is happening on September 20th at Century World. The social is from 4:30 to 6, and the induction ceremony begins at 6 o'clock. And lastly, any service member, I talked a little bit about the Military Wall of Fame at SPASH, but on September 19th, any service member attending the home football game will be able to enter that game free of charge. And then we will be honoring those service members at the SPASH football game that evening. We play Hudson, so we did reach out to Hudson to let them know. So if they're bringing any parents or community members or family that are service members, they will also get into that game free and will be honored. So thank you to SPASH and the athletic department for honoring, again, people in our community that give service back to all of us. That's all I have.
Any questions? Corey, could you just talk about, I know for the military wall, there's a nomination process, and could you just let the community know kind of what that nomination process is? Because it's easy, everyone,
It is.
anyway,
Yep.
just to let people have an understanding
Absolutely.
how we're doing this.
There's an online form, so just feel free to fill that form out and then provide the information asked in that form, and then they will be recognized. There will be a wall at SPASH for just the military individuals, similar to what we do with athletics. So any SPASH graduate, or actually any graduate from any one of our district schools, will be on that wall. And then again, we will honor them at that home football game as well. So it's a really easy process. So if you know anyone, please consider filling out that form and getting them recognized on our Wall of Fame at SPASH.
All right, thank you. We will now move into the consent agenda. We have the minutes of the prior school board meeting from August 11th, the approval of the schedule of monthly bills, and employment recommendations. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and second. Any questions? Hearing none, we will have you call the roll due to the scheduled monthly bills.
Mr. Leapak,
Yes.
Mr. Summers,
Yes.
Ms. Erber,
Yes.
Mr. Liebrick,
Yes.
Mr. Pope,
Yes.
Mr. Kowalski,
Yes.
Ms. Mercer,
Yes.
Ms. Bushman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We'll move into business services, and I will turn that over to Marnie as the chair.
All right, we held our business services on a Tuesday this time, on September 2nd. Beth came and talked about our yearly sub-fill rate, which was 90% overall, 96% for teachers, and the low point there, it was not a surprise, 76% for sped EAs. Due to the 16 open positions. So, but overall, she said it's a good experience with the company, and they're continuing to provide good service. So, we talked about a change in capitalization rules, and that is still in the agenda for later. So I will let that come up. We talked a little bit about budget performance, and the most exciting portion of the night was that we briefly had $3 billion, and then we realized that no, in fact, that was an error. We did not win the lottery. And we still had only the standard. But good news, these are unaudited numbers. So the audited version will be back in January. But we were able to put $500K in Fund 46, which is building maintenance in our 10-year plan, and $1.3 million into the general fund from last year. So I think overall, that is about in the middle of where Mike thought it would be, and a pretty good boost to the general fund. So good news overall. And then the last thing that we talked about was Mike mentioned our food services program again, and we talked about how the governor came and on the first day of school and spoke to one of our food services personnel, but also we served over 31,000 meals to students and family members this summer. And then he briefly mentioned the kind of history of the Turn Up the Beat Award, which was something that we won for last year. And in fact, we won it in 2018, and we're the only school. We won it in 2021, and we're one of two who got the silver. And then we've gotten gold for the last 3 years. So well done to our food services program, and well done to really everyone on staff when it comes to stewardship of the budget for last year.
I would like to second that, from our cabinet to our leadership team to principals in buildings, to our staff. As promised, we were gonna build back that fund balance as part of our referendum discussion with the community, and our staff are very, very, very diligent about how they're spending dollars, and they were very cognizant about making sure that we had enough dollars to put back in that fund balance. So congratulations to the entire staff. I am proud of that. It's not easy. They're making very difficult decisions, but continue to be really good stewards of our taxpayer dollars and making sure that we build back that fund balance. So thank you to everyone, and congratulations to Mike as well. Mike's in his first year, and you know, it was stressful for him. And I know that he feels good about this, as we all should. And we are hopeful that next year we'll be able to do the same. And you'll hear a little bit more about that when Chris gives the budget and evaluation process update.
All right, that's all from me.
So Mike, you were, was it 0.1% off in terms of revenue?
Yes.
Could you just note those in terms of the percentage off in terms of revenue and percentage off in terms of expense? Because it's like incredible.
Is this
Yeah,
noted in
no.
our budget?
And I do have that in the budget. And
Yeah, Chris is gonna bring it up.
Okay.
Okay.
Later, but we were 0.1% off on the revenue side,
Yep.
so for a $50,000 household, if that's your income coming in, that would be like $50 that you're off when you're budgeting a year in advance. So that's pretty good. Expense, we were 1.2% off. So a little bit more off on the expense side, but expense is a little more difficult to predict. Just like your own budgets, you're trying to predict out a year ahead how much you're gonna spend in the next year. It's a little harder to be accurate, but still 1.2 is pretty close. So on a $50,000 expense budget, that's $600, I believe. So pretty, overall pretty good. So overall, we're, what were we?
1.3.
1.3.
Or
Oh,
we
but
were
your
not- we were
accuracy, 98.9%.
98.9% accurate overall. 98.9, so.
All right, well, it's your first year, so
Thank you, Mike.
Well
you've set the
done.
bar.
Yeah.
All right, we will move into Ed Services, and I'll turn that over to G. Paul.
We had 4 things on the docket for Ed Services. One was the Ed Serve annual calendar, which Chris and Jeff made up, similar to the one we have for the school board, to let us know what's coming up at each meeting throughout the year. But it's also flexible, as is our school board one, so it can change, things can be deleted or added during the year. But it's nice to have to see what's coming up throughout the year. And that's available on
On the website, under the school board tab.
under the school board tab, okay. And then another thing was the curriculum adoption cycle that Jeff and Chris made for where we are now in the cycle of adopting our school district curriculums. And we're in social studies this year, right?
Correct. Yep.
And I think that's significant, because I'm not so sure we were following it for a long time, but we're on track now, and I expect that our student achievement numbers will show that. And then we had 2 other things which will be discussed here in the school board meeting, the summer school report and the annual seclusion and restraint reports, and they're gonna be discussed later, so.
Thanks, G. And with that, I would invite our summer school coordinators, Jen Melville and Darla Panoski. They provided a comprehensive overview of our summer school programming. Today, we will conclude this report with recommendations for 25-26 based on the feedback that were received both from staff and families. And we'll ask the board to take action on approving those recommendations. So if I could ask you to hold questions until the end of the presentation, and we'll get that motion approved and see if there's discussion following the motion.
All right,
Thanks, Jen.
you bet. Hi, everybody. We are back with this year's summer school review to kind of give you a lowdown as to what all took place during this year. Is this just a trick? What is this? Did you set me up for what's going on? There we go. Magic. So we have similar strategic objectives every year, and really it is to improve student engagement and achievement in an inclusive environment, and we're focusing again on literacy and the development of the whole child. So what can we do to, again, make them better readers, and what can we do to develop them completely? In addition, we want to develop and strengthen partnerships with families in the community to collectively support students. And you're going to see some of those things that we did to continue our partnerships with this awesome community. One of the things right there in the center that we're going to get to is we offered the DNR hunting course this year. So you're going to hear a little bit more about that. And we certified 30 young hunters to be in just a little bit. Chris.
Still not?
It's fake. Here we go. All right, this year we enrolled 2,511 students. If you look back, that is a little bit down from last year. We would tell you that that has a lot to do with the fact that we shortened our registration window. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in the future of this presentation, but one of the reasons we did that is for our transportation department, to let them create those routes and to make sure that they were really, really solid and set to go. And along with helping with our HR department, making sure we could hire everybody and get those positions filled. So this was new for parents in our community to have that shortened registration window. So as that becomes the norm, that will become, they'll get more used to that. Our student demographics during summer school this year, we enrolled 304 students with disabilities, 631 socioeconomically disadvantaged, and 110 English as a second language learners. We employed 187 teachers, 100 educational assistants, and 40 youth tutors this summer. During our credit recovery courses, those are the courses mostly offered at SPASH in grades 9 through 12. We enrolled 152 students, 6 staff members. That meant that those students who needed some help making sure that they were on their way to graduation were able to enroll in those courses. And again, transportation continues to be a vital need for our summer school program. We had 939 requests this summer. That is pretty consistent with where we've been the last couple of years. And it's so vital. In particular, that we had expanded it at the secondary level, and it continues to show. Otherwise, those other numbers are not as high. So transportation did an awesome job. This year in our OLC summer school, we accepted applications through the end of May, and the session ran the beginning of June till the middle of July. We had 136 courses taken. We had 134 individual students. We employed 16 OLC teachers, 3 OLC coaches, and we offered 35 different classes out of the 80 plus that are available. This year, the buildings we utilized for summer school were similar to last year: McKinley, Madison, Roosevelt, McDill, Ben Franklin, PJ, Jacobs, SPASH, and CFC. The new things this year that we really want to highlight is that we offered hunter safety at Boston School Forest, and we certified those 30 students. Some of our own staff members became certified to teach hunter safety, and that means that they will be able to offer this every year. We had huge appreciation from the community that students were able to do this. My own son participated in this. I've never seen him so prepared for a test in my entire life based upon the teachers that were teaching it. They did an amazing job. And Carla Lockman is just always looking for ways to get kids more involved in the Boston School Forest, and she's just always looking for innovative things. We also piloted Advanced SOAR, which stands for Summer Outdoor Adventure Recreation. So those are the 2 pictures in the center and the middle. If you know Ryan Marnaco or Brian Swenson, who helped lead our outdoor adventure classes and is one of our AP Environmental Science teacher, these are actually, they were responding to requests from students, to be honest with you. Students said, we want to do this more, we'd like to do this, we want to try this in a different area. And so they said, well, we'll try it. And so we piloted it, and we're looking at how can we expand that next year for more students.
Each July, we take the time to send out a parent survey. We also have a staff survey that all staff that are employed for summer school have a chance to provide their feedback. As you can see in this parent survey, we had 159 responses, and overall, all those different categories: registration, transportation, breakfast and lunch, communication during summer school, the course options, and the child's overall experience. Remarkably overwhelming, very satisfied. So that was good to see, even though we had a shortened window for registration, we still had, the majority were satisfied or very satisfied with that as well. Some of the noteworthy things about summer school, this is from the feedback from parents. Once again, that free breakfast and lunch and transportation, that was the number one thing that parents really gave feedback about, really appreciated. The unique, engaging class options, dedicated and communicative staff, flexible scheduling. Parents really appreciated the half-day schedule, and they also really appreciated that week off during July 4th. They felt it provided a good balance, give their kids a break, but also they're able to take their kids out for mini vacation or just some time with the family, and still kids didn't feel like they were missing out on summer school. Online options and credit opportunities for high school, allowing them to free up their schedules during the regular school year. Some suggestions from parents were to expand transportation. There were multiple requests for more busing, and talked about how long the routes were. We would love to provide more busing and shorter routes, but we struggle every year to hire and have our bus drivers work this summer as well. And I think Lee said that we had 21 routes this year, and last year I think there were 22. So we're remaining consistent, but unfortunately, we can't shorten those routes. More class options and spots. Again, we would love to be able to do that. We'd love to be able to offer more spots and more options, but it's staffing. So we continually, that's why with staff feedback, we're able to try to work with them and get make things even better. But when we don't have the staff or the space, we're unable to do that. Longer program duration. Some feedback suggested extending the program to a 6-week format, and actually if you take a look at our 4 weeks, and then the following week is the youth enrichment program, and then the week after that is camp invention, we actually do offer 6 weeks. Improve food options and access. There was some feedback about a books and cooks class. They really wanted more healthy foods instead of just candy, so it's something that we'll have to address with our teachers. And address oversized crowding and environmental conditions. Staff survey results. Again, overall very satisfied with the communication regarding summer school employment opportunities. How satisfied are they with the communication that they received during summer school? And how satisfied were they with the level of support provided by us coordinators and their building principals? Recommendations for 2026, tentative building sites. We plan on using the same building sites as we did this past year. Madison, McKinley, and Roosevelt for PK4, Spash for 512 and swim, Boston School Forest, Ben Franklin for the mini sports camps, PJ, Jacobs, and McDill for Bridge to Success, swim, and camp invention. We want to keep our schedule at 4 weeks again, Monday through Friday, with that 1 week break in the week of July 4th. And so then the dates you'll see up there. Youth enrichment program, again, will be that 1 week in July right after the 4 weeks are over, and then camp invention will follow. Bridge to Success will determine that as we move forward. Transportation, we want to continue to have Spash being the hub with the start and end times of classes, the same as we did this year. It's worked out really well to have Spash as the hub. So we want to continue that.
So for this next year, we're gonna do, similarly, we're gonna have that shortened registration window, which we will continue to promote. So March 24th through April 6th. We will continue to do no late registrations. That was new for our parents and for our community this year, but it really allowed it, again, for transportation and HR to plan differently. And the feedback we've gotten on that has allowed things, knock on wood, this was our smoothest start of summer school that we've had in the last couple of years. We will, though, continue to have alternate enrollment options for credit recovery courses, Panther performance and sports camps, along with, for example, those math and English courses at the junior high. In addition, there will be the reading support program for students in grade 3 who did not meet that exit criteria for their personalized reading plan. That's an Act 20 requirement. So for that exit criteria, they must score above the 25th percentile on the Spring Ames Web Plus oral reading fluency screener and score meeting or higher on the Wisconsin Forward exam. So we are planning right now proactively for that. Questions on any of that? That's summer school in a nutshell.
Are there any questions from board members? Jim?
Two questions if I'm allowed. You mentioned the Mr. Marnaka and Swenson course. Is that purely recreation or do I know we offer PE as a summer course. Is that a PE 4-credit class or not?
No, it's gonna,
Curious how long is it? Is it the full 4?
No, it's only a few days, so it's about 4 days. And so it ends up running very similarly to how we run our world language trips, and it's one of those enrichment opportunities that kids can participate in.
Other follow-up question would be, saw the OLC participation numbers, and I asked this question last year. Is there still any thought to opening, because we've limited it to 1 course per kid? In those doesn't take that long to finish. Is there any thought to adding a second session to that so that a kid could take 2 credits in the summer? Or 2 classes?
Right now, we continue to review that data and look at that. Part of it, again, is those OLC coaches and the number of staff, and then also to what that cost is and everything like that. So right now, where our students are at, most of them are pretty good with 1 course. Seeing if there's some exceptions possibly, we can always look at that, but right now, we're lucky with some of them if they can get through that one just based upon their summer schedules. So we haven't had a huge demand for that, but it's definitely something we continue to look at.
When is the due date to the DPI for when the kids took, and that big long form you have to submit to DPI
For Act 20,
No, for summer school.
for summer school.
Amber's working on it
Oh,
right now.
Amber's working on it?
She's
Okay.
working on it right now.
Do we know the costs and dollars, like,
Once Amber completes that, absolutely. And if the board's interested in that, we can bring that back, but it's
I've-
a
I've-
very
it's-
comprehensive.
I've done it,
Yes.
it's very comprehensive, but I was just wondering if we can have that
Sure.
cost comparison and like costs versus
Yes.
dollars that we get back.
Generally, you're not supposed to make a
Make
lot of money with summer school, so it's generally break even, give or take a little bit. But we have to expend every dollar that we accept through fees. We get some reimbursement back from the state, we expend.
It's like
so
15 days, as
Yep.
long as they come for 15 days, it's like $500 that we get
Yep.
per kid.
Yep.
That's if I ever read,
roughly.
It's 15 days, you have to have them for 15 days, and then it's up to $500 that you can get.
And I think the submission deadline, Alex, is sometime around mid-October.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
October or something.
So we're coming up on it soon.
We can bring that back.
I would
mean,
be
that's,
interested in
or
that
put it
too.
in the
Or put
board
it in the board
update.
A board update, that would be
Yep.
fine, I'd just be interested in that information, please.
Absolutely.
Because we did just wrap up music camps right before summer school, right before regular school started. And then Bridge to Success is also the program that gets students transitioned to the junior high, so we're still counting numbers and still doing that.
Yep. Sure, thank you.
So for those parents who were saying they wanted 6 weeks versus 4 weeks, if I'm that parent, I can check off the 4 weeks and I can check off then the next week and the next week. And once I'm in the system, everything just flows. You're not like redoing busing or anything at all. Or I guess that's the question I'm asking.
Busing is not provided for YEP or Camp and Benjet.
Okay,
So that is an exception.
okay.
So it's just the 4 weeks that doesn't.
Yes.
And those are restricted to certain grades and ages too, correct?
Yes.
So which are the grades and ages for those?
Yep is kindergarten through sixth grade.
Okay.
And then Camp Invention, is that the same, or is it third through sixth?
I feel like it's 3rd through 6th.
I
Third or
feel like
fourth?
it's 3rd or 4th through 6th.
Yep, I feel like it's 3rd through 6th.
That would be maybe just if you're able, I don't know, if you're able to determine from the surveys of parents, kind of what ages of those parents who were
wanting 6 weeks.
who are wanting 6 weeks. It just might be interesting information to know, you know, what percentage of those families actually have that option. Again, there's not transportation, and that clearly provides some limitation for
Well, and
some of our
looking at the
parents.
numbers that you provided with the dissatisfaction, it was like 15% were dissatisfied with
Right.
transportation. And I was wondering also if it was because if there was not transportation to those available in those second 2 sessions.
I guess probably yes.
I would say it's that and then the length of,
longer,
and then the
yeah.
length of some bus routes. Those would be the 2 big things.
And we weren't able to have Kennedy as a site this year. Would be another reason.
So bus routes were longer.
Right.
Like that's not wrong.
For Kennedy kids.
For Kennedy kids, yeah.
Okay. So I am looking for a motion to approve the recommendations for the 2026 summer school session as presented.
So moved.
All right, I have a motion and a second by Jen. Any discussion or questions on that? All those in favor with aye? Aye. And opposed? Okay,
Thank you.
thanks,
Jen.
Jen.
Thanks, Darla.
All right, we will move into student services, the annual seclusion and restraint report.
Thanks. And this is an annual report that Student Services provides, and I'll turn it over to Jenny to share the numbers.
Thank you, Chris. Happy September, everyone. Good to see all of you. For those of you who are at committee, you did get to hear this information, but it is information that's required per the DPI to go to the full board. So thank you for being here tonight and looking through this information with us. Every school year, we report to the board and now to the DPI, which is new in the last few years that they collect that information to help us understand how we're doing with the use of seclusion and restraint. Seclusion and restraint is allowed in very rare circumstances, but generally it's prohibited within schools. If it is used, it's tracked carefully and then reported every year to all of you. This school year, we've reported data within your memo that shows the overall count. We do take account and separate or sort that with children who have an IEP or access special ed services and students who are in general ed who do not have IEP services. We also break that down by the type of intervention, whether it was seclusion or restraint or both. Each of those are counted specifically. And then we do also indicate how many students that's among. For example, there may be a student who goes through an especially difficult time until some good fit interventions are found, and so they may have a higher count compared to many students who this is never an intervention that we use. So within the last school year, for seclusion totals among regular ed students or students enrolled only in regular education programming, we had 12 occurrences of seclusion among 4 students. And within students enrolled in special education programming, we had 168 occurrences among 28 students. In the domain of restraint and students enrolled in regular ed programs only, we had 10 occurrences among 2 students, and among students enrolled in special education programming, 51 occurrences among 17 students. Within the school year, that was a nice reduction among our students with special education services. I'm happy to take any questions that the board members may have.
In years past, you provided year-over-year data. Did you provide that at Ed Services? I missed it.
I did go over it at Ed Services, yes.
Do you want it reviewed?
No, if it's in the packet for that service, I can review it there.
I had a question, I was interested in how we're doing compared to other schools, and I asked a question last week. You said it was like hard to get, but if we're reporting to the DPI has it, then it should be available to all the schools then there, right?
I'm not sure if they do report it out. I can certainly take a look at that. They require that we report it to them. But many districts are small and may have redacted data because it may only be across like maybe one student in a very small district. So I believe this is only the second year they've required us to put that data through to the DPI. So I can take a look, but I'm not sure I've seen any like annual reports like we do with some of the other data. If we do it, maybe they do put one out that's for the whole state. But again, I'm not sure they break it down by district, but I'll check on that, Mr. Pope.
Thank you.
And to follow up on that idea, G, we don't get that, but we do get that graph that we've seen a couple of times that showed the inclusivity in the classroom and where we rank as the state, and that was strictly IEP people, correct? This does include regular ed as well as special ed, but we can see from our numbers at least, the overwhelming majority of occurrences are in special ed students. My question to you then is, even though it's not exclusive data, can that partially explain where our numbers are on that other graph?
I wouldn't make a connection with that. So within our joint federal notification, which I like to call like our special ed report card, we report on indicators annually to the DPI. And the indicator you're talking about is environmental education for students with IEPs, which is a calculation of the total minutes we have within the school day and then subtracting out the time that they are removed for specialized instruction or therapies in a special ed setting. So that was just a calculation. It doesn't necessarily go along with the contents of their IEP or whether or not they have FBAs or BIPs or use of seclusion or restraint. So those I wouldn't, I don't think I'd be able to make any kind of connection with that.
So then when they're taken out as a seclusion, I presume that they're removed from the classroom most of the time?
Correct, but that wouldn't be.
But that is a totally different, they don't consider that removal, that's part of their, what's going on in their special ed life, but that's totally separate.
Correct. It's not a planned service for the student. It would be a crisis response, as it would be for any student. And of course, a least restrictive method would still be used even with a student in crisis. And, potentially could occur in any setting. It doesn't have to occur in one setting except for some exceptions like seclusion. It's not something we'd say like, oh, every day this will happen, compared to if they have instruction every day in math or speech.
Right, so either could happen during regular classroom instruction, right? A seclusion or
That graph, I think the one you're referring to comes from the IEP, examining IEPs.
Correct.
So it really is independent of the kid or anything. But I wanna know if the DPI is now collecting this data, they must report this many seclusions, this many restraints, and as a percentage
Yes.
of the total number of students in the state.
Yes.
Well, that is something could be useful for us to compare to, rather than say compare us to Rapids or to Everest. We compare to the total state.
Yes, they do report out for sure that the average or overall use within the state and whether that's gone down year to year, yes.
And where we stand percentage wise in comparison to those.
I'd have to look if this current year's was reported out. I want to make sure I'm giving you the same school
I'm just
year
interested, are we in
comparison.
the ballpark or are we an outlier? We don't know.
I would not say we're an outliir.
Yeah, but it's nice to have numbers to show it.
Absolutely.
We can look further into that, Jean,
Yeah.
we can check.
So I know the part of the conversation at the committee meeting related to where we have a student clearly, for example, I'll just pull Washington School. And so we're looking at, a Washington school with 37 occurrences for special ed students involving 4 students. So again, it's a small number of students who potentially have a large number of incidents. And I think a question came up at committee, to what extent are we able to isolate the student who is struggling and allow the full classroom to remain operating? And to what extent are we, and so I don't know if you've been able to look into that, but again, I think that's data that board members are interested in seeing. And then the second question that I had around that is just where we have situations like that, if we've got a teacher dealing with 2 students really struggling, do we have the ability to make some changes within who's in what classroom? And then a follow-up question to that is, how are our interventionists able to help in some of these situations where maybe there is an idea that a student is going to be more likely to become assertive? And how, if at all, are we supporting those teachers? Because it truly becomes, I mean, clearly, it's a total disruption for the student struggling. It's a total disruption for all of the other students, but it's also a serious disruption for staff, especially if it's, a weekly occurrence. Sorry, I asked about 3 questions in a row. They just kept going.
I have them. Yes, absolutely. So to answer your question regarding classroom disruptions and like maybe occurrence of interventions and things like that, starting this school year based on feedback from the annual data retreat, we have added into NextPath, which is our data analytics tool, where any staff member might report a major behavior, which of course these would all fall under. We have a carrot now in there that if there is a removal of the class, like there has to be a classroom clear, like something that significantly would disrupt the day, right? That will be tracked. So this will be our first year to go through that specifically, like tracked with a fine-tooth comb. Of course, for each child, special ed teachers are diligently documenting any of these situations. We have a district form. We take notes down to the 2-minute at max. Many times it's every couple seconds. So we do have a running record of what's going on, very specific to that child. So that we'll be able to share with all of you and get feedback on, is that answering the questions that you might have. I would also say that in these situations, as much as there's a crisis, if it really is going to this level of concern, typically that is in a more isolated setting, such as in a specialized classroom or maybe in a specialized sensory space or things like that. Honestly, for both confidentiality and safety and preservation of that child as well, clearly something's going on with them that they're not able to comply. No child wants to show up every day and do things that are damaging to their relationship or to people or materials. So that's a work in progress. Thank you for asking that. As far as changing a classroom or maybe caseload or who can support, absolutely, we say we're like professional problem solvers. We're always thinking of what next, how can we change it, how can we do different, what's working, what's not working. That would be that ongoing progress monitoring. For many of these children, we're taking data on them every couple minutes also, so that we can provide praise and feedback for the things that they are doing appropriately. But we are always wanting to make sure they have a good fit. And sometimes that may mean class changes, caseload manager changes, schedule changes, busing changes. We try and look at everything and break it down to the root cause, which goes into that FBA or functional behavior assessment for that child. And it may also just be lots of frequent IEP meetings. Some students we may meet on every month just because it's that careful of a plan that we must sit down and talk about. As far as interventionists helping in these situations, yes, every school has a team of staff who are trained within our CPI or crisis prevention intervention model. Some of them are trained at a very high level in that they're trainers even in our district, so they train other people. Others are trained as like an implementer. They're somebody who could respond at any time. And every school has a clear process for how they might do that. And sometimes it depends on the student too. Some students, you don't want a big crowd showing up just because you're upset. Many times you don't. So as difficult as it may be, it's usually having kind of a plan A, B, and C for staff and following that plan for the child. But yeah, certainly no one's ever alone. And that's definitely one of our biggest directives in CPI instruction is we would never want anybody alone responding to acting out behaviors. As far as teacher support, one of the areas that my department has really emphasized in the last couple of years is debriefing. We know that's one of the most effective interventions for both understanding what happened, who, what, why, when, where, what can we do different, but also so that everyone can process and talk about that. And if there are supports that people need, sometimes there are things that have to happen. Sometimes somebody is injured, and so we do have to do injury reports, or information might need to come to my office and things like that. So that has been a large emphasis, especially to our principals, because we have a lot of smart people who I think put together a lot of problem-solving ideas, but sometimes the day moves so quickly that we forget about ourselves. So that's been a large emphasis, and we've actually included a standardized form that must come to my office to show that you did do that debrief at a good level.
Thank you.
Yes.
A couple of comments. While I was thinking about this, you went through, mentioned some of the things that I wanted to mention, but the incidents we're talking about where a student is going to disrupt the class, clear the class or clear the student or something like that. In most of the classroom situations I've seen or been involved in, well-trained teachers know it's coming. And I've been in situations where I've seen, I knew something was gonna happen, I could see it, and the teacher picks up the phone, couple words, puts it down, a minute later, somebody shows up at the door. The protocol is already there. We know about this student. The office knows what to do, and now we have another body in the room. And it's quick, it's inobtrusive, and many times just the presence of another person is enough to avert the meltdown. So I'm sure we do it too. I'm sure what I've seen at our elementary schools especially is that they know all the students, and a couple words to the office knows what to do. It's like, it's incredible to watch happen. So I would say the event where somebody blows up out of the blue, probably, I don't think that happens. I think the teachers know the kids well enough that they know when that's coming. And if we have those things in place, we can avoid those situations. Not all of them, I mean, sometimes it just happens, but well-trained faculty and EAs, which we don't have enough of, can avert those situations.
Absolutely. Yes, thank you. I agree. We have very well-trained staff, and we've increased the frequency of our CPI trainings as well, and also introduced some protective equipment for staff that work with students who are most frequently at risk for physical behaviors, which have been positive.
We need more well-trained.
We do, yes. Mr. Lepak.
Yeah, and I thank Meg for bringing up what you did bring up with your questions. And I think it's important for retention on multiple levels to strive to do better with this issue for multiple things. One, I think we get, and Beth could probably answer this better than I could, or I'm just guessing at this, that I think we probably lose some staff who are burned out, expected to deal with these issues, thinking, hey, I'm gonna get into teaching and it's all going to be focused on reading and writing, and then they realize that a huge portion of their day is spent dealing with behaviors and discipline. And I think people leave the field over that, that I think that gets lost in the shuffle sometimes. And two, I think we lose students. I think we don't follow this that closely, but I do get feedback from parents who say, yeah, I left the district because the behaviors in the classroom were not being addressed appropriately or well enough. And they're losing them either to surrounding districts or to the private schools or just to homeschooling, saying, we're done, I'm not dealing with this anymore. And so the better we do at that, the better we'll retain staff and students, I believe, and I think we'll have better academic performance overall, because I'm glad that you're tracking those things, because I think it plays a huge role when some of that happens. The entire day sometimes is completely disrupted in a classroom or multiple classrooms, so.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, one of my main areas of goal has been attracting and retaining special education teachers, as well as everyone in student services through my performance with our superintendent. It's been a big goal of ours and has increased. But I agree that it is an area of stress, even for educators who go into school for working with children with emotional behavioral disabilities or autism. Some people, that's their thing though, you know, and so we serve all students. Certainly know that I would love to report 0 in every one of these boxes to you. That would make me beyond happy, and know that we're meeting every student's needs without having to use hands-on strategies. And someday I hope we can get to that with other interventions. It's definitely not something we permit or promote or want staff to use. In general, it's not permitted unless these very rare circumstances. So yes, we work very hard to have those review revises and capture creative ideas among team members who can help reduce these incidences or refer students to specialized programs as well.
I think it is important to note, though, our staff are doing the very best that they can. I mean, many of them are dealing with severe mental health issues, behavior issues that are beyond what they were 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5, 10 years ago. The majority of their day is sometimes not educating students in reading, writing, and math. It's dealing with some significant concerns that likely are better dealt with outside of the school setting. So kudos to our staff. They're continuing to learn, they're continuing to grow, they're doing the very best that they can. And like Jenny said, I wish we could report 0. We're not unusual. I mean, districts across the state are dealing with some significant behaviors in our classrooms. And I think that we're doing a good job. Will we always strive to be better? Absolutely. Will it be perfect? Absolutely not. I mean, let's just be real.
Well, and as you noted, we've seen a downward trend.
Yes.
And we're continuing
Correct.
to see that,
Absolutely.
and hopefully that trend continues. Both in terms of supporting staff, teaching intervention prior to an incident maybe occurring, and creating those teams like G was saying to.
But I had a question about the downward trend, jogged my memory. The trend was down for a while, then it went up. What was, and forgive me for not asking the question last week, what happened?
We noticed the same, and so that was at the point that we decided that all trainings needed to be annual, and so then it would back down, and that would have been about the time that I stepped into the office. So yeah, I also wasn't happy to see that, so that's why we responded with additional trainings or more frequent trainings.
But
Yes.
I mean, it was really low,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
minuscule
Yes.
compared, it was high for a while and it went way down for like
Yep.
5 years, then it bounced back up.
Yep.
What happened in those 5 years? Did we treat it differently? Did we take data differently, or?
Well, we have to remember, during the pandemic, we were not in buildings for a majority of the
Yeah, that
time.
was very
So
good.
that's why it was lower.
But it encompassed before and after the pandemic.
Yeah.
I looked
don't
at it,
know.
I said, it must be a recording difference or something, because nothing that we did could account for it, and I wish I had it.
That's okay, we have it too. Yes, I don't know all the ins and outs of that, it certainly could be recording, it certainly could be COVID. It could be different choices or programming was just a better fit for students at that point. Could probably lots of different pieces. But I do feel like our reporting is very accurate now, because we worked very hard for that to be. Final questions?
Questions of Jenny? All right, that's an
Thank you,
information
Jenny.
only item.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. All right, we're gonna move into policy and legislation, and we have a number of items, so I'm gonna turn that over to Corey.
Sure. So the first one is our third grade retention policy. Last April, the board took action on this policy. We've been recently notified by the state, as well as Neola, that they've made some revisions to the recommendations. So we are once again gonna ask the board to take action on this. Chris is here to answer more detailed questions, but the gist is they've changed the date to September 1st of 2025 rather than 2027. And then they've made some updates to the parent notification. So if you go into your board docs and actually click on the policy, you will see the red line things that are being deleted, and then the green section is anything that's going to be added. But again, it's the date and then updates to the parent notification.
Thanks, Corey. And I would just point out regarding the parent notification piece that none of that is out of alignment with what we already did with year one of complying with Act 20 legislation. We were already doing the parent notification piece as part of compliance, so that wasn't new for us. The one thing that we were not fully prepared to do was to provide the intensive summer school programming for any third grade students who are moving to fourth grade and hadn't completed successfully their personalized reading plan by scoring above the 25th percentile. But as you heard Darla and Jen share earlier, that we are prepared to implement this year, this summer. So we feel very comfortable with the changes that Neola has recommended. Bless you.
You had shared with us in a previous board meeting the numbers of people who were not at the 25th percentile. I don't remember what those numbers were off the top of my head. I thought it was, there was 700 and some that had personalized reading plans, but out of those 700 and some, it went down 200, but it was still like 500 or something. And maybe I'm off some.
Nope,
You're the
not too
numbers
far
guy.
off. Yeah.
But it was around that 500-ish, give or take 30 or something. Mhm.
Yep.
And so if we did promote them to fourth grade, which was my understanding that we were going to promote them to fourth grade, but we didn't provide we're continuing to provide the interventions in fourth grade.
Mhm.
And if we continue to see those students unable to meet benchmark 25%, how are we enabling our staff and interventionists to give more to them? So, specialized during summer, that's one thing, because we lose a lot during summer. But what else can we do for that?
Yeah, and I think just to clarify, so that it was just shy of 500 this year if we think about K3 as a full cohort. In other words, when we ended in spring, the number of students that were scoring below the 25th percentile across all K3 grade levels, which are the grade levels that are impacted by the Act 20 legislation. If we look at just third grade students that were moving on to fourth grade, that number is more like 37, right? So the number is relatively small. Now, when we think about those students being provided intervention supports as they move to fourth grade, they're being progress monitored. If we continue to see that number either maintains or stays stable or grows, then I think it's one thing for us to start thinking about what additional intervention supports can we put in place in those intermediate grades that are less of a focus in Act 20. But I do think we have to give our CKLA implementation a little bit of time to work. Now that students are being exposed to grade level content and they're being exposed to a standards aligned curriculum, we expect to see those numbers go down because we expect to see students better prepared to perform well on those student assessments.
English
That's right.
program, so.
Yep, they're finally all getting the same thing.
Right.
Yeah, so we would expect to see growth there.
Which is more intensive as well.
Yeah. But definitely have to keep a pulse on it, you're right.
Well, when will we know the effect of that and when they take
Well,
the
we won't
test
know
again?
until the spring.
We'll know in
really.
the spring when we look again and we'll see what number of third graders we have not scoring above the 25th percentile moving to fourth grade. And we can compare that to the number we had this year, moving from third grade up to fourth grade.
But let's be real, I
Teachers
think
always
you feel the full effects of a new curriculum implementation 3 to 5
3
years.
I would say so.
So in other words, we certainly can monitor that data and we certainly can make decisions about what may or may not be going well. But if we see that number increase slightly or decrease slightly, we certainly can't say it's all because of CKLA.
So can you just explain, I'm the parent of a third grade student.
Yep.
And can you just explain what the state is saying that your third grade student has to demonstrate? And if they don't demonstrate that, then what we as a district will be providing in summer school. And then my follow-up to that is, I'm assuming parents still have a choice
Mhm.
as to whether they're going to enroll that student in summer school.
Correct.
And if they choose not to,
Right.
what then is our responsibility under the law?
Yeah, and of course, they have the option, you know, our obligation under policy and under the legislation is to provide. So we provide and we recommend. Once that's done, if parents choose not to participate, we will obviously continue to treat that child just as we would treat any other child when they get to fourth grade. If they're struggling or they have a skill deficiency in reading, we're still gonna intervene. We're still gonna differentiate with instruction. So the state, as part of Act 20 legislation, says that a third grader needs to score above the 25th percentile in oral reading fluency. Very simply put, for a parent, a child needs to be able to read X number of words accurately in 1 minute when they're being timed. If they don't possess the ability to demonstrate that competence, then they would be referred for additional intervention supports and weekly or bi-weekly progress monitoring with an assessment tool that we use and that we leverage called AIMSWeb Plus. So if a parent has a child who does not score above the 25th percentile and is not scoring at meeting or advanced on the forward exam in the spring, we would provide them with those supports in fourth grade. If I'm a parent of a third grader, I would be notified in the spring that my child had not met those two criteria, and it's not or, it's and, so it's both. We would say this programming is available to you as part of summer school, and in addition, as a district, we're obligated to provide you with these additional supports when your child gets to fourth grade.
Are those supports addressed in their IEPs? And do all the kids that are 25%, achieving at 25% or below, are they likely to have an IEP? Do we know?
Not all.
Not all, nope.
So this would be the only point where we would see it and say we want to address it. It wouldn't
Well,
have already been done.
No, because they would have seen it because those children are evaluated and they're assessed 3 times a year in reading from the time they're in preschool. So if a child is struggling or has skill deficiencies in the area of reading, likely by the time they move from third grade to fourth grade is not the first time that parents have heard that there's a skill deficiency in reading. They've heard it for lots of years.
Well, we have the academic interventionists at each school. Would this be something where they would be involved?
Absolutely.
Most
And
definitely.
they would know these children.
For sure. Yep. Yeah, we have the ability in NextPath, you heard Jenny reference that, our data management system. We have the ability to pull the reports out for students that score below the 25th percentile in any subtests that are administered at every grade level. So we definitely know who the students are.
And that number of students decreases as kids move on. So Chris talked about a very large number with K-3 students. As students go through kindergarten, first, second, third grade, it decreases because we know who those students are and we're providing very intensive intervention with our academic interventionists as well as classroom teachers, reading teachers, a
So the
multitude.
data shows that by the time they take the test in the
Yes.
10th grade, that number of students is.
Third
lower.
grade.
By the time they take it in third grade. Yep, and I will
They
say,
take the test again.
But Act 20 only
Achievement.
pertains to kindergarten through
Yeah.
third
third
grade.
grade. And I will say, you know, from a data perspective, in terms of strength of our system, in spite of maybe not having a standards aligned curricular resource, our staff has done an incredible job meeting proficiency requirements, because if you look at, say, percentage of kindergartners who score below the 25th percentile in the fall of every year, and then you look at the percentage of sixth graders by spring of every year, those percentages are vastly different. So it's much higher in kindergarten, it's much lower in sixth grade. So in spite of not having a standards aligned curricular resource, staff have done an incredible job teaching the students what they need in terms of competencies to be successful.
Just another follow-up question for our English language learners.
Yep.
Act 20 is kind of a show for that. There's another adjective I'd like to use before that. But how, so we have ELL supports there. However, the test doesn't, Act 20 is very specific when it comes to ELL, English language learners. And they have to be, there's very specific criteria, and some of our students who maybe have been in the country for more than a year no longer, like, the definition may no longer apply to them, even though they are still English language learners. What type of additional interventions, because we have first language learners who are struggling with proficiencies, and now we're adding additional other language learners to this proficiency medium. How are we dealing with that?
Yeah, and I think the answer to that is sometimes it is two different interventions provided by two different providers. And the work that a classroom teacher really does to sort of bridge the learning that happens from those two different individuals, potentially in two different environments. So there is work with, say, an ESL teacher working on language and vocabulary development and acquisition. And then in a reading intervention setting, they're really working on those skill deficiencies in reading. So teachers are masterful, classroom teachers are masterful in terms of their ability to be able to bridge the gap between the learning that's happening over here around language acquisition and development and literacy skill acquisition. There's, the work to still expose them to grade level content, but also provide them that extra shot in the arm kind of where they are, and allows them to really close that gap as quickly as we can.
As a follow-up to that, Alex, students who are not proficient in the English language, do they get interpreter help
Yes.
while they're taking the test? They do.
Always.
Good.
Yes, that is an allowable accommodation.
Any other questions? If not, we're being asked to, Jim, did you have a question?
Puzzling in my, I seem to recall, I want to say this, I seem to recall there's something about IEPs where there is no like set absolute requirement for actual academic gains with those, is that right? In many cases, and so is that independent of this testing? Or does that affect our numbers at all? Do we look at that at all? If someone has got that, we still hold them to the same standard, or is there?
It's
Okay.
all students.
It's all students,
It's
yep,
all
and they all
students.
take the same assessment at the same grade level.
Okay.
So what we're being asked to do tonight is to approve the revised policy 5411, third grade promotion and retention at-risk students as presented. The main changes are the date, which is happening now. And also the parent notification information that we've already got in place. So I'm looking for a motion to approve revised policy 5411, third grade promotion and retention at-risk students as presented.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further questions? All those in favor with aye? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed with nay? Motion carries. Item B is the capitalization policy update.
Sure, so I'll give a brief update. This went through committee. Mike is here to answer any specific questions, but basically we moved the capitalization threshold from 5,000 to 10,000, and that is to align with the federal standards guidelines as well as Neola recommendations. This change also impacts several other policies. For example, it affects policy 6114, cost principles, spending federal funds, policy 6340, equipment disposal procedures, policy 7310, disposition of personal property, policy 7300, disposition of real property, and policy 7450, property inventory. And again, this also aligns with the Uniform Grants Guidance and Education Department General Administrative Guidelines. So it's basically just following what those recommendations are, as well as Neola's recommendations. But again, Mike is here to answer any questions that you may have.
Can I ask a stupid question, Mike?
There is no stupid question, Gene.
Only stupid people ask.
Go ahead, Gene.
Could you tell me what a capitalization threshold is?
Sure.
Yeah, that's not a stupid question. I think a lot of people don't know what that is. So first of all, what's a capital asset? That'd be equipment, land, machinery, anything over $5,000 currently. That's the $5,000 threshold. And so by setting a threshold, what it does, it allows you have to capitalize assets for accounting purposes. You set a threshold so that you're not capitalizing just a ton of really inexpensive things. Yeah, and it's taking up tons and tons of time. And so we set a threshold so that we are getting on our books those valuable assets that we want to have in our financial statements. Does that answer your question?
Well, if we're increasing it from 5,000 to 10,000, that just means we're capitalizing less stuff.
But you have to remember that things cost more now than what they did previously.
What's the point of capitalizing something?
Depreciation.
Spread it out over
Yeah,
several
it's probably.
So these are items that undergo some sort of depreciation value.
Yeah. According to
the feds.
how we have to depreciate it, but I mean, in the private sector, it has a lot more meaning than it does to us in the
Right.
public sector, to be honest. It's really just a time consuming.
It's a time-consuming pain in the butt.
That we have to do.
Well, and from a business office perspective, it really is the amount of time you're needing to spend to track, because you have to track each of these items that are at that 5,000 threshold. So it will provide cost efficiency, allow our business office to be a bit more efficient in terms of the use of their time, focused on stuff that's more important for them to be focusing on. And it's consistent with what the federal government's doing. So it's just, it's an update.
Yeah, and we've been consistent with the federal guidelines in the past. The $5,000 threshold was what the federal guidelines had in it. That's just gone up to 10,000, so we're just following suit, staying in line.
Well, that's illuminating.
If you like accounting, it's pretty straightforward. It's a fun thing.
No.
Because the things right now
Thanks,
that
Mike.
we're capitalizing would be buildings, would be machinery, would be equipment, trucks, vehicles, those types of things, like, right.
Technology.
Your
Right.
parking lots.
But like,
tennis
not big,
courts.
like big technology, not individual
Not a
computers.
Chromebook.
Right.
Right. All right, so as Corey noted, it's one change we're making, but it just impacts a number of policies. So the motion to approve the capitalization threshold policies as presented includes 6114, 7300, 7310, 7450, and 6340. So I am looking for a motion to approve the capitalization threshold policies as presented.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed with nay? The motion carries. All right, we are moving into the budget evaluation process.
Need you to tap the mouse pad there if this is truly not working, but I'll give it one more try. And before I hop in here to budget and program eval for September, I want to point out that that is not August listed there. This is actually the September report, but a nod to our communications department who makes this look beautiful every month. I give them the content and they spit out something that looks much better than I could ever create. So I just want to acknowledge that before we hop in. I want to lead here with just the cumulative position review that we've been doing for approximately 2 years now, or leading up on 2 years. We've reviewed a total of 512 positions. 483 of those 512 we filled as is. We currently have just 2 frozen positions. And you'll note that that number of frozen positions has decreased significantly. We like to start the beginning of the year with that number being very low. And if history repeats itself, we'll see that number gradually increase throughout the course of the year. If you attended the Business and HR Services meeting on Tuesday last week, you would have heard Mike mention the fact that our administrative team and staff out in buildings are being incredibly diligent about really making informed decisions about whether or not we need to keep a position exactly as is. So when sometimes we're saying we're gonna see how we can do without it, that might fall into that camp of a frozen position, or we're unable to fill it and we might fill it with a sub and say, we might not need this next year. So we're gonna put it into that frozen category, but I wanted to point that out. Total number of positions eliminated up to this point since we've started the process is at 27. I wanna talk here a little bit about some of what we started discussing at the beginning of the board meeting, just the accuracy that we've experienced in terms of revenue and expenses in our Fund 10 or our general fund. We had a bit of an optimistic view when we did our budgeting for revenue, so we overshot just a bit in terms of what came in. There were a couple of factors that contributed to that, one of them primarily being interest rates were just a little bit lower. We also had a smaller fund balance, so there wasn't as much money there to collect interest. And we also decreased some amount of money in federal aid that we received. One thing that I want to point out that did almost offset those decreases, the interest that we didn't earn, as well as some of the decrease in federal aid, we did get some additional mental health funding that came in the biennial for this past year. That for the state was approximately $40 million. And moving into next year will be reduced to about $10 million. But our district benefited by just over $100,000 from that mental health funding, which would be considered a revenue. In terms of expenditures, so Mike said we were within 1.2%, and he was beating himself up about that because he'd like to be within 1% of accuracy. But I said, Mike, remember, we're on the good side of because we actually underspent in terms of expenses. So that underspending equated to about $1.3 million. You know that up to this point, as part of program and budget eval throughout the course of the year, I was reporting cost savings through position elimination equating to about $810,000. So certainly that contributed significantly to that 1.3 million that we've realized in savings that we're able to put back into fund balance or fund balance recovery. We're really pleased to report this out to the community. This is certainly part of what we planned all along. It was a very consistent message as part of our referendum campaign. And I'm really proud to say that we've been able to follow through. And in terms of the 810,000, we did add a few things. So we did add a few positions, and there was a decision to fill a half-time psych position, which took that $810,000. Remember, the board recently acted on the athletic budget increases of approximately $64,000. So that $810,000 is down to about $700,000. That we'll realize in the 25-26 fiscal year, but we are feeling incredibly optimistic to have a fund balance contribution in 25-26 that looks hopefully similar. And I get nervous about saying that out loud because sometimes I'm afraid I'm gonna jinx it, but I'm gonna hope that if I put it out into the universe, it'll come true. And again, Mike made reference there to just how accurate that is, and it certainly is a nod to folks in our finance department because they do an incredible job both forecasting our revenues and our expenditures. I want to turn now and talk just a little bit about our program. That our programs are in need of additional analysis that we've identified. You heard me report in prior months that we identified 14 out of the 46 total programs we reviewed. Our initial focus in 25-26 is going to be on ELA. We just finished a comprehensive review of athletics that resulted in an increase in cost rather than a decrease, but we intend to do the same type of review for co-curriculars, and hopefully we'll be able to begin at least and maybe potentially complete the work on mathematics programming in the district. We had some survey data that I was able to share out last month, and I'm gonna repeat this here because I didn't do the best job last month when I put it in red, thinking it would be easier to read, and it was terrible to read. But I want to identify some staff and some student and parent priorities that they would like to be included as part of our review. Staff priorities really believe that we can do a better job teaching writing skills and reading comprehension skills. 67% of our staff reported that being a need when we look at our program review for ELA. Doing a better job of supporting our ELL students in the regular classroom. 53% of our staff feel that's a need. Our struggling and exceeding students, only 47% of them overall feel that they're being adequately supported. And special education, 40% staff would say that there's a need for additional support there. In terms of student and parent priorities, they would say they would prefer better feedback on performance tasks. 56%, so over half of them feel that way. More elective variety, so they'd like to see more elective courses available. Student support for struggling students, families feel only 47%, so over half of our families don't feel like we provide adequate support for students in the area of ELA. And exceeding students, only 41% of our families feel like those students are adequately challenged in the regular classroom setting when we talk about ELA. In terms of rigor and support, 61% of students exceeding expectations feel appropriately challenged, but only 48% of students not meeting expectations feel adequately supported. So those are certainly areas that we want to focus on as we do our program review with staff. And those key improvement or takeaways for all groups, that would be staff as well as parents and students, support for special populations, and also an increased level of rigor or expectation for improving reading and writing skills. Our ELA program review goals that we've established at this point are to explore opportunities to increase student engagement through incorporating student voice in course analysis. That was a message we heard loud and clear. How can we get more input from students about what they'd like to see in their courses? Certainly, we've identified that they want more specific feedback on performance tasks that they submit. They also want more support for students who are struggling in their classrooms, or they also want more support for students who might be already attaining grade level competence. In other words, what challenge or enrichment activities can we include in regular coursework? We want to expand equitable access to advanced coursework. I want to pause to celebrate here just momentarily. We saw some significant increase just from last year to this year in AP course enrollment. In 24-25, we had 489 students enrolled in AP courses, and this year we have 620 students enrolled in AP courses. That is a huge increase, and we offer a total of 19 advanced placement courses. So that is a significant milestone and celebration for folks at our secondary level and folks up at SPASH. Our dual enrollment has increased as well from 275 in 24-25 to 831 in 25-26. So just creating this level of awareness alone and this level of transparency around exposing kids to more rigor has already started to increase what we're exposing kids to and what they're getting opportunities to participate in. We want to strengthen reading and writing comprehension across all student groups, improve targeted populations, or supports for targeted populations, begin updating and aligning SPASH academic guide with career pathways, making those more specifically defined. And we're clearly looking at what other districts have available in the spirit of not recreating or reinventing the wheel, because there are some other districts that do this really well. And also establishing a more consistent portrait of a graduate. We have a neighboring district in DC Everest who really do an incredible job with this work. And they have been doing that for an extended period of time. So certainly we're leaning on lessons learned from them as we develop that and enhance that here in our own district. I did not include this on the final slide here, but I do just want to echo Mike's sentiment, Corey's sentiment that she led the meeting with in terms of saying, I do believe that we have realized the cost savings we've realized, and we have realized the improvement in performance because of this process. It's created a lot of awareness and it's created a lot of transparency, not just for our leadership team, but for teachers. And they're very aware of when we need additional support in an area, whether that's a curricular resource or whether that's another staff member. They're very conscientious and mindful of the impact that that has on budget. And we want to do both things, right? We want to be fiscally responsible, but we also want to enhance experiences for kids. And I'm just really grateful for the response that our staff has already demonstrated to the work that we've put into program and budget eval. But that's the report for this month. I'm happy to entertain questions.
Any questions by board members?
Jim, go ahead.
And you're, of course, haven't been predicted I'd ask this question, but on
No, I
dual
don't know it
enrollment,
yet,
I
so.
see the dual enrollment numbers, nice. I don't recall, I saw in the academic guide, the changes you guys had made, that went from one little paragraph to fairly expanded. Thank you for doing that. What exactly are we doing to inform parents that their kid is adequately enrolled? I know that there's a way for them to look at that, but what are you doing with that? And two, I just became aware of a student that was taking one of our speech courses and implied that dual credit wasn't being offered, and I kind of questioned that. Like, I thought all of our speech courses were dual enrollment. Go
Yeah,
ahead,
double
Jeff, were
check
you
on
gonna
that.
answer that?
And actually, maybe I would have Jeff step up and maybe just talk a little bit about the work that's been done around parent communication for identified career pathways.
Jim, I'm gonna take the second one. My guess is, and I would encourage the parents to talk to the school, the only speech one that I'm aware of right now is if they do debate. So if they're doing
Okay, only
the
in
debate
okay.
at the junior high, that would not be dual enrollment, and that's part of our course review process we will be looking at as we go forward. So that'd be my guess.
But all the
Probably
speech
that.
at the high school level should definitely be, and it's probably an oversight of
Yep.
them missing the
Ask
paperwork.
someone
And
else.
can they still do it?
If it's at a high school, yes, I would tell them to get in contact with their speech teacher immediately. So to your initial question, Jim, we had a meeting already with Midstate. We plan on having another one. So one of the things that we're gonna be doing is, they are sharing, there's a form that parents have to fill out. So if parents want more information from Midstate, from the college that's issuing the credit, we can't do that. But what we have done with them is said, hey, can you get us that form? And then the idea is that we make sure we convey that to staff and students in this process so that that can be shared with parents. And if a parent wants to say, I want my information and I want to get it, now it's not going to be in-depth grade reports, but it will give them more contact information on how to connect with Midstate in that process.
Part of that FERPA paragraph that was in
Correct.
the academic guide.
Correct.
Thank you, Chris and Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
So just a follow-up, kind of budget evaluation and efficiencies. I know we've had a little bit of a change with respect to the demographic consultant timing of report. Do you want to just report that out?
Sure. So we were asked to provide MD Roffer's information related to the capacity in each one of our classrooms. So they were originally going to have information to us here in September or October. We want that information that we pass along to them to be very, very accurate. So we reached out to Nexus, who has some information related to the 2018 referendum and capacity information they did. I also reached out today to Andrew Halverson at Ellis Construction, who may have some additional information. And then Jeff, Chris, Mike, and I started the process. We got through 6 buildings last week. We have more to come this week. We are walking every single building with every principal, and we are looking at every single classroom space to notate what it's being used for, approximately, how many students throughout the day are in that classroom space, and potentially what the most number of students that could fill that space could be. So we just feel that providing MD Roffers with really, really, really good information is only gonna help them with their report back to us. So it's going to push that date out, that they'll have information to us probably by a month or so. So I'm hoping November, December, that we'll have good information back from MD Roffers.
This should be interesting.
Yeah, it will be. I mean, we just did not feel comfortable giving them information from 2012 or even prior to the referendum in 2018 because we've added some space since that referendum. And we just needed to really walk those buildings because we've got some spaces that are currently being utilized for a multitude of different things, but could potentially be a classroom rather than maybe, split between a reading teacher, an ESL teacher, and a special ed teacher, or vice versa. So we just want to make sure that we've got the best information for them.
Corey, thank you all for doing that because of course the report is only gonna be as good as the information that you provided. And the extra work going into doing this will make the report much better.
Agreed. Thank you, Ted.
Any questions about that at all?
I just have to ask, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
It piqued my interest when you said how many students could be in a room. What's an allowable space per student? I know how many you can jam into a room, but we all know what an acceptable room looks like.
Sure.
Just how do you determine that?
There are some recommendations that are out there for primary students compared to intermediate students, you know, junior high students and high school students because they change in size. And then we take into consideration our teacher-student ratios as well as the square footage space in each classroom. So there's a total number of square feet in classrooms, but there's only a certain number of square feet that are considered instructional spaces because some might be cabinets or sinks, or in a science room, there may be lab spaces. So all of that is gonna be taken into
Cause I was
consideration.
thinking the kindergarten rooms too are huge.
They should,
but
they are
need the
recommended to be larger, based on what it takes to,
I'm just wondering how realistic the recommendations are. I know it's what you have to go on, but there's recommendations by somebody who makes those recommendations. Then there's the person standing in the room.
Reality.
right?
You get recommendations on what's happening, there's nothing to say that you have to jam, you know, if things are redeveloped or whatever in the future, we're not gonna jam as many students into a classroom as possible.
Right, right.
And, you know, there is no hard and fast, this is definitively the number of square feet that should be allowed per child, but roughly based on the review that I completed, it's about 50 to 55 square feet per kindergarten student. It's about 35 square feet per student in grades 1 through 5, and about 30 square feet per student for students in grades 6 through 12. And that, again, it was a range, and that was sort of an average that I and Jeff calculated based on a review that we did of a couple different sources, not just specific to Wisconsin, but across the country.
And MD Roffers will be able to share with us kind of what their recommendation has been for other districts too, that they've worked with. So again, it's a little subjective, but we're trying to get them the best information
It's a
that we.
lot subjective.
Well,
But
it's,
you're
so
walking
it's,
each room,
it's,
right?
We
So
are
you-
walking
I mean,
every
you're
room.
not gonna be
Yeah.
unreasonable in your assessment of how many students that room can hold.
It's a good way to
Correct.
get to around about the right number.
We've
The
all
right
walked
place.
into rooms that are too
Well, but-
crowded.
but remember, the overlying purpose of this study, it's a demographic study. So the overlying purpose of the study is the recognition that we have that the classes that are at SPASH are larger. The classes we're graduating than the classes that are coming in
Correct.
to our kindergarten, 4K
Yep.
and our elementaries. And we also, so that's one issue, that projection about how many students are we going to have as we move forward over the next year based on state data, based on local data. And then the other part is the reality that we have some of our elementaries that are really struggling in terms of number of students, and some of our elementaries that aren't.
Overcrowded.
Right, we addressed it, whatever, 3 or 4 years, 3 years ago with PJ and Ben by having Kennedy students go to PJs. And so, and we've seen that that's created more, at least currently, of equal. But ultimately, the information that's gonna be most important to us and to the community is what are we projecting in terms of student population as we move forward, and how can we best utilize our schools to provide the best education as well as a budget that is appropriate in terms of that, what what at least at this point is gonna be a declining student population. So having that information about the schools in terms of square footage and everything is also important to us understanding, us being able to make the best decisions related to the various recommendations that I think we're gonna be looking at.
I understand we'd have to deal with numbers.
Yep.
You gotta have data to make decisions.
Yeah.
But I hope, and I don't think we would, get into the spot where we say, well, this room can hold 30 kids. You walk into a room with 30 kids, I don't care how big it is, it's crowded. And we've been in them, you've been in them, I've been in them. I've been in our school district. That we give some consideration for the fact that it just feels crowded when I'm in here, and that we have to do something about that.
A classroom full of 30 kids is a very different feel than a classroom full of like 20 kids or 22 students.
And I
mean,
don't
we
care
know
if it
that.
stretches out to yonder,
Right.
that's a lot of kids, you
Right,
know.
it is.
Well, and we have
Recommendations.
We have
classroom,
recommendations.
We do, and
we
for the
have
most part,
existing-
we follow them.
Correct.
But,
correct.
you
That's
know,
what
I've been in them where,
Right.
in our own district, where it's just, you feel claustrophobic.
I can feel the concern that maybe we're gonna put more students in the room, but I think Meg said it well, what we're really looking at is the declining population coming in. And so it's gonna be more likely to be less.
And what's the potential growth in what areas of our community? Because that's gonna give us good information on potentially what's to come for each one of our elementary schools, our junior high and SPASH.
Yeah, and I understand what you're saying, Ted. I just hope there's room for the eye test.
Sure.
That we're not totally relying on numbers, you know what I mean? That
I do know what you mean.
This just doesn't.
And they're not gonna tell us what to do. Ultimately, this group right here is gonna make that decision.
And that's one of the reasons I said thank you, because with them doing it personally,
Mhm.
I think they're getting the eye test.
It's just more information for you to make an informed decision.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, our future meetings, we've got our special board meeting next September 15th. How many
We have-
candidates do we have?
Yep, we have 8 applicants as of 4 o'clock today, so it's closed. We'll begin that meeting at 5:30. Nicole will be sending out information within the next day or two, letting you know all of the applicants. She'll share the application materials as well as all of the updates pertaining to Monday's meeting. So just be checking your email in the next day or two.
And then the intention is that we will make a decision on that appointment on the 15th. And then that will allow us the time to orient.
And then
We
see,
may even want to consider making committee decisions about committee placement. Or we can just, we can have them take Will's position and take
that makes
those
sense.
committees, but we'll need to have that as a
At least for this
motion
year.
so they can have committee meetings.
We can include that in the motion.
Okay, that'd be great. All right, and then we have the regular board meeting on the 13th, and then we have our budget hearing on the 27th. So 2 meetings in September, 2 meetings in October. That's right, committee, that's right.
Yes.
All right. All right, I am looking for a motion to go into closed session under 1985 paren 1 paren C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee, specifically a school psychologist. I have a-
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Could you call the roll, please?
Ms. Bushman,
Yes.
Ms. Mercer,
Yes.
Mr. Kowalski.
Yes.
Mr. Pope,
Yes.
Mr. Liebrick,
Yes.
Mr. Summers,
Yes.
Mr. Lepak, Ms. Erler.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right.